Welcome. What's going on, man?
Number 40.
Today's the 40th episode. Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I've been tracking, man.
By the way, we're approaching on the YouTube channel 200,000 subscribers. So we're at one as of this morning. Hold on.
I think Ross helped a little bit.
Who?
Ross. Appo. Because he sent out some stuff yesterday too.
Well, a lot of it's my short stuff, but 191,000 subscribers. So, all right, let's bring on Coach, defensive coordinator at Don Bosco, Coach Spencer Scannell. I hope I said it right.
You did.
Okay, and then we're gonna bring him on. We're gonna talk. Obviously, Don Bosco's been a powerhouse program for quite a few years, and known by their defense. And as we found out today as well, his brother it works with the Bucks, which is who I confused him with earlier today, because he's actually in my phone, which that's a whole nother story. Maybe we get to that at some point later on. But Coach, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you on. New off season, talk a little bit of football, a little bit Don Bosco football. But before we get going, just tell everyone your background, your playing background, how you got to where you are today.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. So I'm Coach Spencer Scannell, not Scannell. So it's Scannell like flannel, I like to say.
I do all the time, yeah, buddy.
It's something about like the New Jersey, like people want to make it like sound like Scannell,
It has to be
something
sound
like that. Yeah.
Scannell like flannel. That's easy.
Yeah, but when you say it like that, it makes it easy.
Yeah. I always say Coach Toll would like call me Scannell, like in around like the field or whatever, and then like if we were around my parents or whatever, he'd be like Mr. Scannell. Like he knew the name.
He knew it.
He knew the name, but it would always be Scannell until
he no dummy.
Yeah. But yeah, a little bit on my background. So yeah, I graduated from Don Bosco Prep in 2013. I was lucky enough to be a starter on the 2011 national championship team. I played linebacker. I was a captain my senior year. But yeah, I went to Don Bosco. My older brother went there. It was always like a dream of mine to go there and play. Growing up in the area, I grew up in Mahwah, so my dad took us to games growing up, going to watch guys like Justin Tratow, Dylan Romaine, stuff like that. Ike Garrow, who I coach with now. Seeing all those guys play, I always knew I wanted to go there and play. Coming full circle back as a coach now, it's just been an incredible experience overall. But yeah, so a bit as a player, I played linebacker and some fullback my senior year, kind of that undersized, never going to really be the big time D1 guy. I was like a 5'9", 200-pound guy, had great grades. So I was always kind of on the verge of Ivy League stuff. My senior year, I thought I was going to get the Dartmouth offer. Never came through. It ended up going to a player from Chicago that one of my friends who ended up at Dartmouth said, at least, he ended up being a stud there. So at least it went to someone who was a great player. But I didn't get the Dartmouth offer, but I got into the University of Notre Dame. So I went there and kind of like put football behind me for 4 years in a way. I went there, got involved with the rugby team, played that seriously for about 2 years, kept me involved in athletics. Notre Dame actually, when I was there, still had full pad inter-hall football. So like at Notre Dame, you're in an all men's or an all women's dorm. And the all men's dorms played full pad 11-on-11 tackle football.
It's amazing.
So I got to play that. We won 2 championships back to back my sophomore and junior year when I played. Had a blast, kept me involved in football. I coached women's flag football, so I was never too far from the game and too far from athletics between the inter-hall football and rugby. Graduated Notre Dame, took a finance job at Stryker on Route 17 down the road from Don Bosco. Our offense coordinator, Igor Bina, invited me to I guess it was the beefsteak or something like that, like to bring an alumni back to one of the events. While I was there, I got talking to him and Coach Teal, who was the head coach at the time, Coach Tank. And, they were kind of like, you should come back. You're right down the road, like help out when you can type deal. So in 2018, I came back. I would show up at 5:30 right when I got out of work. They started practice later.
They were still on the field.
Yeah, Coach Steele started later in the day because a lot of the coaches worked at other schools when he first started there. So I was able to make the back half of practice and all the stuff on the weekend. So I helped out with the linebackers with Tank Daniels and Ike Garrow. Had a blast doing it in 2018, but I ended up taking a job in Florida where I went to go do sales for a year. I went down there, ended up having some health issues, ended up coming back to New Jersey. I've been dealing with brain cancer since 2019 now. So I've been but in a way, going to Florida, stepping away from football, it stunk a lot. Like I was just getting really into it and things like that, but great job opportunity. Went down, and then the cancer kind of brought me back to New Jersey, and it brought me back to football. Man, it's been the best therapy for me. Coming back in so 2020, I started coaching again. I did the running backs, and I was the JV offensive coordinator. So I did 2020, 21, 22. I was the running backs coach for the varsity, and I was the JV head coach and offensive coordinator. Had a lot of fun doing that for those 3 years. Then after the end of the 22 season, our defense coordinator moved on to a new role, and I saw that opportunity. I spent a lot of time playing linebacker. I coached a year of linebackers, and I think every coach has their time on one side of the ball and to the other, and I think my time on the offensive side of the ball helped me a lot preparing for the defense coordinator role. But ultimately, Coach Depascale decided to go with myself and Coach Garrow, who's been coaching linebackers at Don Bosco since about 2017 now, us as co-defense coordinators. And we worked really well together this past year, had a blast. And, I learned a lot from him, and we complement each other in different ways. But, that's kind of my coaching path to where I am now. I'm going into my 6th year of coaching. I'll be doing I'll be the co-DC again and coaching the inside linebackers. So that's kind of my background on the coaching stuff.
Wow.
It's a wild story.
I just got blown away too. So
yeah, I didn't prepare you for any of that.
No, you didn't prepare me for any of that. So that's Derek's fault, by the way. No preparation at all.
Come on, man. It's his story to tell,
So there's a lot to unpack there. So has football really been like, because obviously it's totally changed, not just from a life standpoint, but what you're doing too, right? So what has football been able to do for you as you're going through this whole process of being around the kids and getting out there practice every day? What is that like for you?
I mean, it's hard to put into words what it means to me. Football's always been such an important part of my life, but obviously after getting a diagnosis like I did and whatnot, I pulled back from so many lessons that I've learned from football about persevering, putting my head down and going to work in different ways, getting strict with I went on a keto diet while I did chemo, and I lost 50 pounds during the time, and it was just kind of and I still had to exercise. So I was living in Mawa when I was going through my chemo, but my fiance and we would drive to Bosco and we would walk the hills and walk the track up there to keep myself active, because that was the place where I learned how to, put my head down and go to work and things like that. So the football stuff, it's been so impactful on my life. So, I feel like going back and being around the kids, I just want to be, an example for them and impart those lessons that all the different coaches I had during my time gave to me, so that when they come through adversity in their life, they can persevere and, put one foot in front of the other and just get better and, learn how to fight, learn how to be tough, learn how to overcome when life throws shit at you that you don't want, that you weren't expecting. I think that's the whole reason why so many of us coaches do what we do. And, football for me, it's been the best therapy, in terms of my own health. It keeps me young around the kids. It keeps me active. It keeps my brain sharp. It keeps me motivated. It's just such an important part of my life. And I just, I get emotional talking about the game, it's such an important thing to me. And it's just incredible really what it's done for me in my life. And I just, want to pass that on to others. It's kind of like my why, if that makes sense, No,
that makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a real life example for the kids when you talk about, having to fight through things and persevere. And so a lot of times as coaches, especially when you're talking to kids, they, what do those words mean to them sometimes, right?
Right.
They get it from a sports standpoint. They get it. But when they have someone that's literally going through something like you are every day and coming out and coaching and working on making them better, every single day. It's they've got a real life example of what that actually means, what toughness actually means. Like when we talk about toughness, obviously we talk about it on the field as far as tackling, you know.
Yeah.
But what you're really talking about is when life kicks you in the teeth, like what's going to happen there, you know, and how do you handle it? Do you stay down? I mean, unbelievably inspirational. I mean, I'm getting emotional myself. So,
well, I mean, and listen, and that's the way, I was fortunate enough to coach Spence in his senior year.
Right.
Look, I mean, you're talking about undersized linebacker, but I mean, literally the heart of the team, right? And, I go back all the time and I talk about old school captains, right? Like guys that led a certain way. And that was this guy, you know what I mean? Like he would stick his nose into anything that, it was just bang, bang, bang. And that's just who he was. And he was a great leader. Wasn't like, never a negative guy or coming down on guys. It was just like, hey, support role. Hey man, what can I do for you? Or what can I do for this team? How can we get better? Because here he is coming from a national championship his junior year. And he knows like they graduated like everybody. And then who left and who was doing this? I mean, it went from one place to another and he held the rope, man. And that's what Coach Toll preached was toughness and fight through it and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a great display of it coming now from you, right? Having to go through these tough times, handle all this stuff, and now go back and coach. Man, I mean, when I heard you were coaching, I was so excited because I knew you took that time away when you went to Notre Dame. You still played ball. I knew you were going through all that. And look, I've been through it too. And it's like, look, that is the best therapy, is to get your mind, especially when it's dealing with your mind directly, right? Because now you get to go there, you get to put together game plans, you get to scheme things up. Like you're constantly working that brain stuff. And it's important, man. And these kids need to see real life examples, like you said. So that's why I wanted to get you on, man, so we could talk some ball and do all that kind of stuff. Because, it's a great display. I mean, look, you're at Don Bosco, right? Like, it's time to, flip that switch and bring that thing back,
No doubt, man. And I appreciate the kind words, of course.
Nah, you're good, dude. You're good.
What's it been like? So as being a defensive coordinator at Don Bosco, obviously every week is a battle, or almost every week is a battle. And the standard, obviously, so Coach Sabella is a fantastic coach. Coach Sabella is around, I think we're the same age. I think we might have played at high school at the same time. Both small school guys. I would Saddlebrook. He was a Pagoda guy, but he obviously built a great reputation as a head coach. But it's always a battle, right? So no matter how good you're doing, and at Don Bosco, you're always going to be compared to what Toll did.
Yep.
Which is always a looming
he set
thing.
The standard,
it's a difficult. It's almost.
You wrote the book on this.
It was. You could be one of the greatest coaches of all time, and not be ahead of the greatest coach in New Jersey history. You know what I mean? So that's the hardest part because, in my opinion, and of all the great football coaches that have coached in New Jersey history, Coach Toll is the most. I wouldn't know the best or not because I didn't play for him, but definitely the most accomplished coach in the history of New Jersey, and most would argue the best, right? But everybody would. And he also changed, people don't realize,
absolutely
changed the game. Everything. So before Partridge did what he did, Toll really was the first guy to change all that. Where guys coming in and going to the big schools and being a part of a powerhouse. He was really the first on that.
He set the standard, that's for sure.
Definitely. Talk about what the landscape is like now, how you guys continue to build the program, some of the things that you guys continue to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a special group of players, those, 6 state championships in a row, special group of players, special group of assistant coaches. Then, of course, to tie it all together, you need a guy like Coach Toll, just one of one when it comes to, high school football. There's a standard he set that we're still trying to, every year, reach that same standard. Don't get me wrong, but, he was a special guy, a special coach, special time period for the program. And we're, I'm not lying when I say we're trying to get back to that every day. It's that standard of winning state championships is still what we're chasing, still what we're pursuing. The landscape today, our schedule right now, like if I look at our last year, like the out-of-state teams we played, I think, 4 different champions between New York, Maryland, New Jersey, and Florida, or the other team we played out of state. So we're playing a crazy schedule still, like we did back in the day. But the difference that I like, I don't try to explain, but I kind of think about sometimes is like my senior year, we played Fairlawn, we played, like a DePaul team when DePaul wasn't DePaul.
DePaul wasn't DePaul. We beat them by 50, bro.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that, it's a different landscape in terms of.
We played Fairlawn. We did play Fairlawn. I forgot we played Fairlawn.
Even when we played Paramus Catholic my senior year after Jabril transferred there, we won 31-8 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, we smoked them. In the regular season, we smoked them the first game he came back to Bosco.
We ended up winning the state championship, obviously, but, the landscape was just different in a lot of ways.
We beat St. Thomas Aquinas with the Bosa brothers on the D-line. Like, that was like the schedule we were playing.
Yeah. They said the JV team or whatever, when we were walking out there, like, did you just bring the JV team? And I was like, that was kind of a good burn, man. Like,
you were ready to go, dude. They were dialed in.
But yeah, the landscape's a little different, whatever it may be, but don't get me wrong, standard's still the standard. We're still chasing state championships. We've been there, 2019, 21, and 22, fell short every time, but, we're knocking on the door. We're still coming for it. And, the standard is, we're going for that, man. Don't get me wrong. We're not living in that shadow as much anymore. Like when I coached in 2018.
Yeah, it was still there.
Coach Teal's second year. And, kind of like from a guys coming in standpoint, it set the program back in a lot of ways, I think, in terms of like how people viewed the program and things like that. Like, like whatever happened with Coach Toll. So then like that 2022 class, maybe less kids came because of that. And that, affected the 21 class and the 23 class in ways that you can't explain, like I just think there's probably something that happened there, but it definitely, Coach Toll had such a great impact on the place. I love the guy to death, and he's one of my greatest mentors and impacts on my life. And his presence and his impact has, reverberated through the years in a lot of ways too, So there's much more parity in the league. Every week is more of a battle for sure. And being a defensive coordinator, it's preparing every week the same way, is bringing the same intensity that, I do it, but it can be challenging and a challenge to get ready for, most teams are spread offenses, but everybody does things different ways. There's new athletes every week. There's never a time where you can sit back and not, bring your A game, because our corners are going up against Division I guys everywhere, slots, running backs, offensive linemen. Like there is a Division I guy
every
or
week.
2 or 3 on every team that is
every team
maker of some sort. So it's in short, I guess, it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be in our league. You feel like you're coaching high level football every week, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Every Friday night or every Saturday afternoon, you feel like you're going to war and playing against great competition, great coaches. Like I think the state of the league is amazing, and just continuing to get Don Bosco that 1% better every year, so that we can win that next state championship is a huge goal of mine in the programs.
What is the what's the landscape like as far as how you guys are pulling players now? Are they coming from everywhere? Are they coming from mostly north? Like, because obviously you guys border New York, and then
we always had a couple New York guys.
Where are the players coming from, and do you see players like moving more than they used to, that kind of a thing?
So I would say it's not as much of the moving. I think people are traveling further. I feel for a lot of these parents, man. These kids, like you got to remind them sometimes, like, hey, when you get in the car tonight, say thanks to mom and dad for picking you up at 7:00 to drive you back, to get home at 8, and then wake up at 5:30 to drive you back here in the morning, type of deal. So I guess I would say there's less Bergen County guys coming to Don Bosco to play football than back when I was there. Like we had a lot of great players from Ramsey, Mawa, Cattle River, even Franklin Lakes, Wyckoff. Like a lot of those guys now are going to their public schools still. Like Ramapo is such a great program. Highlands is such a great program. A lot of those guys staying at their public schools, I guess. But we get a lot of guys still, from like the South Jersey area. The New York stuff, we're kind of the closest program, us and St. Joe's, for those schools to come to. So we still get it. Like Kyle Sikowski was a great player from Warwick. We had our starting safety, punt returner, kick returner, punter, Connor Cosgrove last year. He's a Warwick guy. We get a good amount of that New York talent still, and I think it's a huge part of our program. Those kids are always tough. I think they get a great like Pee Wee football education there too. Like Hinspeter brothers, like Timmy Hinspeter, who's at Rutgers now, another, Warwick area guy. His little brother's playing for us now. But you still gotta pull from everywhere. You gotta find the talent and hopefully attract them through winning and stuff like that. So we're still getting a lot of great players, but I think it's definitely more spread out than it used to be. Like I think we had a high concentration of the Bergen County talent, and then a lot of the guys from Newark and Patterson were coming up to us. Whereas now I think
changed.
Our kids, like, it's hard for them to even hang out on the weekends sometimes, it feels like, because they're coming from all over the place, and mom and dad are driving them 5, 6, 7 days a week during the season there. And then, I don't know, I think it's tough for them to get their license, So kids are coming from all over. I don't know. I think it's the same for most schools,
Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember used to get a couple of guys from New York, but I didn't even know like that football had be like in that Warwick area had really improved that much. But I guess
what was the other one? Goshen too. We used to get some
yeah.
guys too, Dave.
Oh yeah, and then now Spring Valley maybe St. Joe's gets more of those kids
because they're more
Spring
there.
Valley is a little bit of the other side for you guys, right?
Yeah.
You guys
it's not far. It's not far.
Oh no, it's not
closer to St. Joe's, but
okay,
that's where Yuri Wright was from.
Right?
Yeah,
okay.
Boy.
I know that they used to have a good youth program. That's really interesting. Talking ball, so the defense that you guys have had, especially the last couple of years, like if you ask people, like, and it's funny because Bella's a well-known offensive guy, but and this might bother him, but if you were to ask people, like the last couple of years, really, what has been the thing that's been so dynamic on Don Bosco has been their defense, So like we have guys that play in our club from Del Barton. That's what they talk about, like how the defense, like we couldn't move the ball against them.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about some of the things that you guys have really done on defense to make that Don Bosco defense the way that it is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is Coach Ike and I, our all of our assistants are great too, but we've tried to simplify as much as possible to get these guys to play fast. So no matter what we're doing, we're using the same sound bites. We're using the same, like if we're playing one coverage and then we're adding a blitz to it, making it, the terminology is the same so they can spit it back at us. And our film room is we're very much looking to teach rather than, we're looking to teach and correct. We're not looking to patronize or, cut guys down.
Yeah.
We're really, I think we have a great group of teachers right now on our side of the ball. And I think that's just been huge for us, making sure guys have their notebooks, can spit back what we're talking about, getting them up on the board and just getting them to play as fast as possible. Like in our league now, it's hard to, play base for the entire game and just line up and do the same thing. So how do you be multiple, but like use the same terminology and get them to play fast, even if you're doing a few different things, has been huge for us because we just try to, have them spit out. Like if you're the wall seam flat guy, who's inside of you? The hook curl guy. All right. If you're the hook curl guy, who's outside of you? The wall seam flat guy, who's out, and just like having them be able to spit the same stuff back and forth, repeating the same teaching comments, whatever it may be, just getting them to speak our language has been huge. And we had a great, like our first year last year, we let up, I think it was 14 points a game. And that was like an improvement of like almost 10% or something like that from the year before. So I think we're just getting better. And a lot of it's just the teaching and getting the guys to play fast, doing multiple different things.
Yeah, and adjustments must be a huge thing because you're playing different styles slightly each week. Talk about how you adapt your defenses from week to week. to make sure that they're able to like play fast and be able to adjust and be multiple and be able to do that. So because that's I think now at your level, obviously you guys are at a much higher level. You guys have the players probably to do it a lot more, but across the board, you're seeing that coaches have to learn to adapt because one week you may be playing a spread offense, then the next week you might be playing. I mean, you're not probably playing any wing tees, but a wing tee. But you might
some
be playing
form of it, right? Like
power.
some type of run game.
It, you know.
Yep. So how do you adapt? Because knowing that each week you're gonna have to slightly adapt your defense to a different style. How do you teach the adaptation for the players?
I mean, we're lucky, I think, in terms of the time we get with our players.
That's what I was just gonna say, Spence.
We have the opportunity to, we meet, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right when they get out of school, they go to study hall. Once study hall is done, we'll have at least 2 days a week or a full defense meeting where we're able to put up the whole game plan on the board with them, have them get their notebooks out. We show them whatever it may be, top formations, plays, talk them through that. So they're getting that information on Monday. We're able to rep out things so many times throughout the week with the time in the classroom and on the field. We're probably a little behind some of the other schools on the like quick practice stuff. Like, you hear all the time about how much teams are cutting down their time on the field.
That ain't at Bosco.
We're still, we're working on it. I'll say that, but we spend a lot of time. So it's what adjustments we make and whatnot. We're able to spend a lot of time on them, and so it shows up on Fridays and Saturdays without too much complications. I guess is my answer to you. Is the time we put in on Sundays as a staff, we're able to spend that same amount of time or more, with the kids Monday through Wednesday to make sure on that walkthrough day Thursday they're sharp and ready to go. So we have a lot of time with our adjustments where I think some schools that I've heard, at least from a public school perspective, might not get that same film and field time. Like the football field is the football field for the most part, unless there's a soccer game. So, if we're not feeling 100% on something on a Tuesday, but we think as coaches we can get them there, we're going to spend that extra 30 minutes or what it might take to get it there.
Well, I think the one thing too, Spence, is that like you guys, I mean, I'm assuming you still film practice and stuff. Yeah. So you see, that's like a huge thing too. Like, you're meeting before, like you're going from study hall. Okay. Now you're going into a meeting where we're putting up, hey, we're watching the film from yesterday's practice. We're critiquing, we're going through it. Hey, you got to do this. We're doing it. So it's really kind of like you're taking that extra time off the field, right?
Yeah.
Then now you can take it and now you can utilize it. You go, you know what I mean? You practice, you come back. Now the coaches will meet, we'll watch film so that the next day when you guys come in, bam, we got our notes and we're ready to go what we need to do. From a public school perspective, man, like they just don't have that time, right? And then not only that is some of those guys, they could care less about film or be vested in whatever because it's just not the same type of, situations that they are. And for me, that was one of the biggest adjustments when I was there was like, damn, man, like we do a lot. Like look at all the time that these guys put in. Yeah. And you know what? You never heard one dude complaining about we're here for so long or I can't be doing this. Like, no, they're there for a reason and they're plugged in. But I definitely think that whole extra time thing, like, because you're not out there banging like we used to. I mean, we used to be 11 on 11, good on good on a Wednesday. You know what I mean? Going full go, pounding the rock. But like, so now you have that extra time that I think is just pivotal, especially in the league you play in.
No doubt. And that extra time allows us to hit every type of learner in a way. We get the guys who write stuff down and draw it out for themselves. We hit that type of guy who is kind of like what I was. We get the guys with the visual and they get to see it on the film, stuff like that. And then the guys who need that walk-through time on the field, like we get to hit all those different types of learners. And that's a big thing that Coach Drew Lascari, who you coached with, he taught me a lot about that this past off season. And it was great to be able to implement that and, teach them in those different ways that we're, if so-and-so he can't look at the board right in his notebook and fully conceptualize what's going on. He's the walkthrough guy. We get that time with him too,
Yeah, it's important. You got to hit on every single one of them.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is no matter how long you guys do practice, when I was a kid, Coach Toll was the head coach at Saddlebrook High School. and it was his first head coaching job, and he took them to the playoffs. And Coach Toll used to practice so long, and we didn't have lights or anything,
Bro,
that the parents used to line up the cars in
and
the
use the lights
and to put the headlights on so he could practice, and he would go like
sounds about right.
7 o'clock, at night. So that's like
Bergen week was a little later every day.
Yeah.
Those practices that you guys probably had back in the day, and even now as you're cutting them down, he used to practice.
3
I remember.
hours easy.
We actually have a clock now. We have
right.
Clock, a sprint, So at least
It's
we're getting out. One of my favorite lines used to be one of my favorite lines used to be, tell mom to park the Audi or something like that. Like tell her to turn the car off, and it would be like a slight dig at like, you rich boys, turn your car, like tell your mom to turn a nice car off, but also like, hey, you're gonna be here a while. I always thought that was hilarious.
I thought it was always great when it was like, hey, it's Bergen week, and I was like, what's that about? They're like, don't expect to be off the field.
No.
But hey, all good. You know what I mean? Like, you never heard one guy complain, right? And that was always
daylight savings times hits, and then it's like you're in a darkness forever.
You're in the dark forever.
No doubt.
You're like, we playing a night game now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's really what it was.
No, that's incredible stuff. How about and I'm curious. I don't know how much involvement that you have on this as a coordinator, but from a recruiting standpoint, are you involved in that process with Coach? And what are some of the things that you guys are seeing that's changing?
I mean, it's just like it's crazy, man. It's turning into more and more like the college game. It's having a Twitter, having an Instagram, identifying the kids, going to see them play, getting to know them, getting to know their parents, things like that. It's changing a lot. It's just a bigger part of it. It's a prerequisite for coaching in this league now.
Yes, you got to be able to do that. You have to have connections.
You have to be involved. If you're a assistant, whatever, it's just a part of the job now. It's just got to be. It's just so important. The talent pool is so wide. There's so much of it that like to go out and get it takes a commitment. Like you got to spend the time on Sundays going to youth games. You got to spend the time on Twitter, whatever it may be, watching highlights, getting to know like who are these guys worth going out after? Are they big time? Are they big time players? And it's just, it's funny. It's like every year I think I'm going to find these huge defensive and offensive linemen. I always thought there'd be a place in football for, the bigger kids. Like, you can't really go play soccer because you're not as fast, whatever. You can't play as much basketball because you might not be as coordinator, get up and down the court as much. It's just so hard to find these big offensive and defensive linemen these days. It is.
They're the high price commodity, bro.
Like the wide receivers and the, linebackers. Like you can go play soccer, you can go play basketball, lacrosse, whatever it may be. I just always thought there'd be a place for football for the big guy, and it's just, I find it so hard. Those guys are same at the college level. They put such a premium on size on guys who are 6'4" plus and 300 pounds plus. You got a pretty good chance of going and playing big time college football. These days, it's the same thing for us. We're looking for those bodies, man, and it's hard to find. So you got to put the work in.
I mean, look at you, like some of the guys that even you played with, right? Like you take them for granted, right? Like, you look at a guy like Quad, you know what I mean? Or just guys with size and stuff like that. Like, think about in your 4 years there, the offensive linemen, defensive linemen that came from Bosco to go big time. I mean, Justin Tritow wins how many national championships with Florida? You know what I mean? Like, these guys went places. I mean, you can name a lineman every year that went somewhere. Yeah. And now it's like you look at it and the landscape is so barren. You know what I mean? Like, Dave and I talk about it all the time because he's fortunate enough to, he has his son is playing, ball now. He's just getting into the tackle game. But like one of the kids that's his, on his youth basketball team is a monster, dude. And it's like, hey, he's already going to have like, interest because of just like size, whatever. We're talking about 9-year-olds,
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's like I go and I watch a basketball game at Bosco and I see they're
a different breed right now.
The third power forward on the bench. I'm like, hey man,
what are you doing?
Out we tag
Yes.
you with the defensive
Yeah.
end, you know, like you're probably getting something, you know.
Listen, man, remember Sweeney, right?
Yeah.
Tommy Sweeney. He forever was like, I'm a basketball guy. I'm a
Yeah.
basketball guy. I'm a
So
basketball guy.
Boston
It's like,
College
bro,
came to Lincoln.
yeah, like, hey,
Yeah.
buddy, like, you're not a basketball guy. Go be a tight end. Oh, sure. Boston College, league. You know what I mean? Like, guys really realize it. And I actually, when I was talking to Coach Savella on Friday, I said that. I said, hey, how about that basketball team over there, you know? And I asked them because when I was there, you know, you had football guys that were in the starting lineups, right, for basketball there. And that's
Sweeney,
not
Leonte,
the case anymore.
yeah.
You know, like
Sweeney and
that's not the
Leonte.
case. It's a basketball thing. Those other guys, it's like, hey, man, come on, dude, come do this, come do that, because it's there. It's just, you know, and that's where you have to find guys. Dave and I talk about it all the time. Yo, man, recruit your hallways. Like, there's got to be 5 people walking around that should be playing football.
Right.
The lineman thing is a tough thing because of flag football. I think flag's so popular now that like you're obviously skill kids. Whenever they decide to do tackle, they can do it whenever they want because they can play flag all the way through. But with some of the programs not having as much tackle, what happens is you get like kind of like the bigger linemen go to these all-star things, right? Which is good because they're better, but you lose a lot of these other kids who could have been linemen because maybe there's not enough. Maybe there's not a team at their local town, so they got to go play in an AYF program with 3 towns or something like that. And I think that's so hard. And flag football, though, more people are playing flag football than ever. I see NFL advertising it all over the place.
Talking about an Olympic sport now,
right? But for tackle, that linemen are not going to be guys who are traditional linemen are not going to be real successful in flag football. So if people associate tackle with flag, it's one of the things that like I always go back and forth with because we run flag leagues and stuff like that. But I always go back and forth with and like they're 2 different. I know they say football, and I know you catch a football,
but it's not even close.
But it's 2 different animals. It's like, completely 2 different animals. Like the big guys are important in regular football. The big guys in tackle football, I don't even care. Like, they block. You're better off with a skill guy blocking in flag football because you can move. So the big guys, their skill set is taken away, which means it's probably harder and harder to get as many good ones of those. And
definitely,
you're right. Like I mean, look at the NFL, right? Like how hard is it to protect a quarterback because you can't get enough good tackles to block these defensive ends.
Watch Chris Jones go out there and make these guys look like children half the time. You know,
you watch Bosco this weekend go against freaking Trent Williams and all. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you got Trent Williams out there. Bosa's going against whoever, like on the like these guys are just so freaking athletic, dude. And now it used to be a lineman was like, hey, I need to be this big monster of a human. And be somewhat athletic. Like that's gone, man. Like I don't know. Like you now need guys like Quentin Nelson that are extremely athletic to play that position.
Well,
and it's kind of all trickled down.
It's what's weird. I wonder if you guys experience this. I don't know because obviously you guys are a higher level for high school. But what I noticed is that obviously the center's like a certain type now. The guards are these huge wide guys. But then you got your tackles, like your left tackle is like almost like he can't be like a big heavy guy. He's going to get run by. So he's got to be like a basketball player, but like with some size, almost
like almost got to be like I don't want to say
Shaq
like
or something.
O'Neal, but like maybe one step lower athletic wise. Like he would have been excellent.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, you always want those. You need those big guards inside to handle something because you still see these gigantic 3 techniques and 2 eyes and
especially
huge guys in the middle. But like the speed on the outside, it's like the edge pressure, the speed you need out there. It's totally different. You're right.
And especially when you're talking high school guys, right, where are kind of like almost everybody now is a tweener, right? Like everybody could be a strong safety, a linebacker, or a defensive end. It's like just a matter of which one do you do better or any of that. They can all just be the same thing because everybody with like how offenses have evolved, right? Everybody's just chucking the rock all around. So it's like, all right, well, what does a big guy do with that? not much. So let's just stick that big dog in the middle and then have athletes everywhere, and we'll just run around with like, it's
hybrids,
like,
right?
it's craziness.
Hybrids. Yeah.
Everybody.
They make a huge difference. Well, college recruiting. College is coming in. What are you guys seeing? Like, are your kids getting recruited as much by colleges as they used to with the transfer portal? Is it the same? Is it different?
I mean, it was tough. This last group had a tough time once the new rules came about. But, we still had a very talented senior class. We had 8, like, the early signees that went, I guess, a month or 2 ago and signed. And then
it's the early
second wave in February, we had another 4. So,
okay, wow.
12 out of our 24, I think, seniors going to play college football, 8 of them playing like Division I,
You see,
football, so.
the difference is it's just like, look, like you guys are still producing talent to go to play college football.
Oh, no doubt.
Look, it's just not the wham bam type of like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
We don't have 4 Army All-Americans, like we did when we had Elijah, Quan, Darius, Leonte, and Schuman.
Right. Like, I mean, you're talking
Yuri was the other one, like that. Those 2 years, it was like having 5 Army All-Americans in 2 years or whatever it was. That's unheard of. And, even having Chase, who was invited to the Under Armour All-American game, and then Jordan Thomas this year go to the Under Armour All-American game. Still impressive. We still have a lot of talent. Still developing guys to go play at the next level. And we have so many guys that went and are playing as freshmen and sophomores at their college levels. We're still producing a lot of guys and, developing them super well. We just got to put it all together and go win a state championship now,
No doubt. It's that Big North, the gauntlet, the conference,
it's the SEC, bro.
But obviously the playoffs become
because you're playing everybody again.
So,
which can be tough,
Maybe I wonder if you can explain this. They just came out. Did you see the whole thing with the parochial that they're? I was.
What
that they're going to re-rank it? It's not.
What does that mean? What does that mean that they're doing?
We've had a discussion about it the other day, and somebody was like, "So it's just the same thing?" And I read the article, and somebody at the end said basically the point was to get more teams into the B bracket.
Right. They want to just balance it out.
We haven't had like the non-public A, like our bracket hasn't. It's supposed to be 16 teams, but Hudson Catholic, I think, and another team in the A bracket have not participated like the last 2 or 3 years. So it's kind of
there's always a bunch of guys that
like just opted out, whether it was injuries or being young, whatever it may be. So I think the whole point is to take more of the A teams and put them in the B bracket was my interpretation, but it could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. We were looking at it the same thing, and they were looking at like, just go, what do you talk like? All right, so what, you're going to just move?
Yeah.
You're just going to change the number for enrollment and say, all right, if you have this many students, you play here. If you have this many students, you play here. Yeah. And then I sent it to Dave, and we're looking at the numbers, and we're just like, dude, it's the same thing. It's literally the same thing.
I think maybe 1 team or 2 teams might like cross, and I think it'll end up as a smaller A bracket is my prediction.
Like we said, Dave, right? It's going to be like, hey, group 1, 2s are on this side, group 3s, 4 are on this side. Like, at the end of the day. Yeah. At the end of the day, we said, what were we saying? Dude, just put them all together and let's
put them all together. It takes St. Mary's, St. Mary's, and the I don't know. There must be like 4 schools.
Let's play till February.
Like the schools that have 50 kids in the school, let them play in a little like.
I mean, you're talking about DePaul played St. Mary's this year, dude. Like that was like us playing Fairlawn. No, look. No, whatever, like it is. Look, great for like good for you. You made it, whatever. But like, should you have to now? That's just that's part of this whole thing. Let's just pick the 16 best parochials, dial it up and go. Because even with all the opt-outs for A and B, like it literally limits you to 16 altogether anyway, right? I mean, half the time it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be lined up to play this guy, but they're opting out, so now I got to do this and play over here. And
I'm glad I'm not the guy in charge of all that,
Listen, bro, that's above our pay grade.
In college football, it's just no one's ever going to be happy type deal. I think,
Just call your boy Darren Cooper. He'll let you know.
Yeah,
Cooper will let you know. That's your guy.
No doubt.
It's interesting, dude.
Well, Coach, it's been great having you on. Amazing, inspirational story.
My God.
You know, really like wish you the continued best, man. It's you know, you're sharing real life things with the kids that more than anybody else. You know, you're able to instill those values in them, and I'm sure it's making a big impact on them, not just on the field, but what they do, you know, outside of football.
Yeah.
Really, thank you for coming on. Anytime you ever want to come on again and talk football, we'd love to have you.
My man.
Guys, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Hey, Spence, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you taking the time.
Coach. Have a good one, man.
All right, buddy. We'll talk soon.
Have a great day.
See you, Spence.
Later, guys.
All right. Great podcast. That was excellent.
He's a good dude, bro.
Yeah, you definitely give me the old heads up.
I didn't know. Like, I didn't know if he was.
That's an amazing story.
You know, it was like it's his story to tell. You know what I mean? So I didn't know. I mean, shit. I saw him when I saw him last Friday. He was all wired up, like he was getting monitored for his brain waves and all this stuff, like for seizures and whatnot. And you know, it's like I'm sitting next to him. We're in the middle of like a speech. All of a sudden, his phone starts beeping, and I'm like, medicine time. And you know, here he is taking out medicine, popping it and going. Yet he's still at a clinic learning to get better. You know,
awesome.
I mean, he was good, dude. I'm telling you, Dave. Like linebacker wise, bro, if this dude was 6'1", 6'2", game over. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, dude. Undersized, but like play inside, outside, cover, come off the edge, blitz, do whatever. And he kept a rather renegade group of Bosco boys like together as this little like short number 33 captain, dude. Like I say all the time, there's been maybe in my 14 years coaching, like he is one of those guys when you look back and be like, damn, he was like a true captain, right? Like not old school, new school. He mixed it all together and was like, whew. So like, you know, he was like, and he was one of those guys like, Coach, I'm not going to play in college. I'm just going to go to Notre Dame and like get a degree from Notre Dame.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, where am I going to go with this? You know what I mean? Like I've bashed my head for enough years. Like, so let's go to like Notre Dame and kind of whatever. But it's just, I love it because he's such a smart defensive guy. You know what I mean? And then him being on the offensive side of the ball for a couple of years, I think it's really going to benefit him. And he's young, dude. He's only, you know what I mean? He graduated high school in 2013. So he's still going, dude. And he's got that juice, you know, he's really, like you said, and his story itself, like, you know, just leads it to wherever. So those kids and the kids love him because he's a fiery dude. He gets all wild and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
he played for Toll. Like he knows toughness, right? Like that's what it was, dude. Like, you know, he bashed and fought and worked and all that kind of stuff. Like it never doubts me that when it comes to that kind of stuff, even the off the field stuff, that like he just takes that stuff head on and he'll just go.
There's no doubt about it. No, it was awesome. That was an awesome podcast. What was I gonna say?
Did you hear him talk about assistant coaches though in the recruiting world? Like now, like you're not just going there to coach X's and O's, dude. Like you got to go there and then you got to go do stuff. Like you got to know how to bring kids in.
Yeah, I know that's the incredible thing. That's the most difficult thing. Is that you have to be able to get guys in and be able to
talk, work.
Yeah.
Like come here. I mean, look. They just took their cafeteria a couple years ago and turned it into a weight room. Like it is like, woof, you know what I mean? Like the school itself and obviously like it's behind you to help you and do all those other things. Yet I just think it's wild. And I don't really know, like throughout the country, like where there is such a like condensed group of high level schools in the same area that are literally fighting for the same talent.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's too many places. Texas in the
yeah, but like even that, like right, they're kind of spread out a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're talking about like boom, 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 boom within a what radius? I mean, you live there, you know what it's like, dude.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right about that. And I don't think they have that many of them, but like if you go down,
maybe Florida, like Dade County or something like that, or Broward County, right? Like around the.
Well, I was gonna say like south where they have so south of Dallas they have it goes I can't remember which direction it is, but it's like Duncanville, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, back to back to back.
Right. And then up here, it's like you're going Bosco, Joe's, Bergen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like PC. I don't know. You can just. I just think it's so like obviously because our state is the way it is when it comes to like geographics and like you know what I mean, all the the population density of people being like in small areas. But man, I just think it's so wild. And you know what? To be honest, like. You would think that there would be so much competitive, like whatever, that guys would be like a certain way towards each other. But I have never, ever felt that within being part of that world, right? Like, I feel like all the coaches, yeah, they want to beat the hell out of each other when they play, but like they're all cordial about it, right? They're pretty cool with each other. It's kind of like, it's just different to me. You know what I mean? I think it's just a different type of thing because I think they all have like the right thing. And for the most part, like it's all about kids, right? Like, what can we do to help our kids? And then let's be as competitive as we can and bang it out on freaking Friday night.
Absolutely. All right, let's get off here. And I by the way, our reversibles, they just sent me what they look like. They're sick.
Are they good?
Yeah, I'll show you after.
Boardwalk Beast, baby.